Hello, and welcome to an in-depth look at Doom, the Dark Ages. We're going to get straight into it, and we'll be looking at the game and all of its systems in quite a bit of depth here, but we're going to start off with the good, and the good is very good. I just want to point it out that the game looks absolutely gorgeous, and not just from like a graphical fidelity point of view, just like the environmental artists and level designs and things here have just done an absolutely excellent job at making this game look spectacular, and you absolutely feel like you're in the middle of like a demonic war zone in this game. Like the entire time, it's just amazing. There he goes. I've beaten the game, and so this review is coming from the point of view of someone who has beaten the game on the ultra violence difficulty, which is one above normal, and it took me around 30 hours to beat. I didn't 100% it, but I was kind of doing a bit of collectible hunting. I've got most of the levels close to, if not completely, beaten. And of course we're a bit more powerful than we ought to be right now, because we're going back to levels that I've beaten through the mission select. And so a lot of the equipment I'm using here is a bit more powerful than it ought to be. I'm going to save this guy till last for a particular reason. So the first thing you'll notice is the combat still looks, at least, absolutely excellent, but we'll get into the problems with it in a moment. So I would say the big problem with the combat system, like the big change, is the parry system. So whenever someone shoots something green at you, you can parry it. So this guy here in his big armor, he keeps shooting these laser grids, and you'll notice that there's not as many projectiles being fired at you anymore. It's going to be mostly laser grids, especially as you get into the later levels. So you're not just shooting guys who've got, you know, oh, here comes a load of bullets. No, here comes like a weird laser grid that you have to avoid. You don't have a dodge button anymore, so avoiding these you can only walk out of the way, or you have to straight up dodge them. Or you can block. Blocking sends the projectile hurtling back at them, and even sets them on fire a little bit. One thing that I will point out before we just finish this guy off is notice how my projectiles will not go through the laser grid. I can be firing directly at him here, and it's not actually hurting him. And unless I'm blocking on the green point, then, well, unless I parry on the green point, I'm not actually, well, yeah, I'm not actually parrying unless I do it on the green part. But the main thing to keep in mind there is not just the parry system and how it works, but also I cannot shoot through the laser grid. So if you see an attack that involves a laser grid, I literally cannot shoot through it. And this is true for all enemies. And what this creates is what I would say is an over-reliance on the parry system. There are some enemies, and we're about to see them here as well, that can only be defeated through the use of the parry system. These tanks, for example, as far as I'm aware, they're indestructible, but a single parry will blow them up. There's these giant tentacles as well. And we're beginning to see a bit of a problem with the game's design here as well, in that, now it's not causing me a problem here, but I have taken a hit. So, well, why? Because an enemy was shooting me from off screen with an attack that I have to parry. And a lot of the game and a lot of the combat, a lot of the game's enemies really do play into this parry system. I cannot stress this enough. This is a game where it is a kind of a timed parry system with a first-person shooter system attached to it. It's not a first-person shooter with parry mechanics. It's a game where you kill everything by doing timed parries and occasionally shooting them. It's very much that way around. It's not as noticeable when you start the game, but as you get further into it, and there's more and more things on screen and the enemies are getting more and more dangerous, it becomes far more apparent how important the parry system is. Like at this moment, I'm able to use something like, say, we'll use one of the new guns. I can use a gun like this and not feel overly penalised for choosing to do so. I'll also take this moment to point out another problem that I've found with the game, which is the kind of lack of the glory kill system. So here we'll just bonk them with the shield, right? Kind of unamazing, anticlimactic even. And that's just present throughout. It's like, yep, the enemies are just not that intimidating or anything. It's like, oh no, and it's an enemy, and well, yeah, you just don't glory kill them. Like you do the big fight and all this stuff, and it's not as satisfying to just kill them because you don't do a glory kill. I can go and stun this guy. I might have overdone it. It's because my shield's upgraded. At least I can goad this one into maybe. I don't think I can actually parry these without killing them. But you see, it's not even coming up with a glory kill on this one. Like half the time you kill them before it even shows up, and when it does show up, let's see if we can just take a little bit of health off him to make him into a glory kill. Let's just see. I might not be able to because I'm being pulverised by all these guys at once, and I can't actually physically move at the moment. It's bugging me. Right, there we go. Too bad. But yeah, you just bonk things with your shield. It's very frustrating. You know, there's no animation where I run up to that tank and like rip the tank open and lob a grenade in or something, or you know, pull the turret off, rip the guy out from inside, and you know, or shoot me gun into the insides of it. There's none of that, and it kind of sucks a bit. And I'll show you what I mean when I say that the combat does eventually get a bit hectic. And you just can't get through it without parrying. We'll play some of the end game as well. We'll just do like one of the combats from near the end, and we'll just see the difference here. So here we are, we're in hell because it's Doom, of course we're in hell, and again just the environment design people, like the artists, the environmental designers, so on. Fantastic job, absolutely fantastic. It looks like the album cover for a metal album, it really does. But you'll begin to see what I mean here when I say, now the combat, because it favours parrying so much, especially later on, and you just have to be right on top with it, the problem is because you're constantly doing that, certain weapons gain bonuses from being continuously fired. Just beneath my crosshairs here, there's a little bar. So the crosshairs in the centre, this is like a wide-reaching weapon, almost like an auto-shot it, and it looks absolutely badass, and it grinds this skull up. And yeah, you can have like a partially ground up skull in there if you fire it just a little bit, but not loads. But absolutely excellent design on the weapons, you know, and it looks like an engine. You know, it looks like a big engine with pistons going and this grinder and stuff. You know, and the fact that it's revving, fantastic. But good as that may be, it gets a bonus and it starts glowing, and like the eyes on the skull being fed in glow, and that's when that little bar below the crosshairs fills up. So you'll notice there's the crosshairs, there's a little bar, and then there's these 3 little signs. There's 3 signs means that I've got 3 melee attacks charged up and ready. And the little bar is how charged my weapon is. As I do damage, it charges up. There are a few weapons like this, like the plasma accelerator's another one. That's got a charge to it as you do damage and things. The problem is continuous firing weapons, and I'll show you here. They're just ill-suited to the type of combat this game wants. I'm having to constantly parry here. These laser grids are coming in behind this guy, and what that means is that I can't actually shoot through those laser grids. So as they were passing through him, I wasn't actually able to fire at him anymore to finish off the job there. Let's throw the shield at this guy. It works well enough on the rank and file, but this one's got a shield, so I can't do that. I have to parry this guy, then he's got more attacks coming in. I'm trying to do what I can. I managed to actually take this fella out. And I've just about managed to get the weapon almost fully charged. But a pretty significant, there you go, it's burning now. But it's not exactly a fantastic weapon, especially against single targets. Obviously it's meant as like an auto shotty, but it's not particularly viable. Let's try, I mentioned plasma accelerator, that's also got a charge to it and it's automatic. But as you can see, it's just not quite filling up enough, and as soon as you stop firing it's going down. So when you're in these combat scenarios where you're constantly parrying, it's just not viable. This means that weapons like the super shotgun, on Doom Dark Ages at least, are way more viable than other weapons. As you can see, because I'm parrying things here, I'm able to manage to actually beat this guy down, whereas I would have struggled otherwise. It also one-taps most enemies. A similar weapon is the chain shot. Absolutely fantastic weapon as well, this, by the way. But this works off of parries as well. And the way this works, if we can find a willing victim here. The combat hasn't ended, so there's definitely an enemy still around. I think there's supposed to be one that flies around in this area. But there'll be a big enemy we've not defeated yet. That's the one there. So when you parry an attack with this, it charges up. Normally you have to hold it, and you can see a little bar underneath it charging up. But if you actually parry an attack, it charges up fully automatically. So it's almost like you parry then attack with this. I can't remember if that's an upgrade or if it's just something that this weapon does, but either way, you parry an attack, and we get one to parry here. Oh, we've got another enemy up above shooting at us. And these two are actually they're two of the new enemies in the game from, I guess, what you would call a new faction. I'll not get too into it because I don't want to give you any spoilers, but I'm firing the chain shot at him here, but it's not spectacular at this, but just because it kept hitting the ground there because we're having to fall back. If we get another one or two in here, we might actually beat him. Ah, too bad. He got us. That's another thing as well. The actual parry system, the way it works, is there's no penalty to actually just mashing the parry button real quick, like mashing the block button. There's no actual drawback to this. You know, you can't only hold on to it for a certain time, or there's a stamina bar or anything like that. So there's nothing to really stop you from just, oh my god, I think he's attacking, and just mashing it a few times to just make it easier to hit the timing. That said, the timing's already very generous, and it can do it from off screen even. I'm pretty certain that the parry angle is like 270 degrees roughly. At least that's what it feels to be. We'll try the super shotty again with this. But as you go through from the start of the game to the mid part of the game, that change from lots of enemies that are fairly weak to having these much stronger enemies mixed in rather large numbers actually, makes it so that automatic weapons, because they can't get to that charge due to parrying all the time, become a lot less viable. And so the combat starts revolving much more around either the chain shot or the automatic shotgun. I actually fully upgraded the combat shotgun at the start of the game, to the point where it's got like a 3-round burst and an incendiary mode. I'll show a bit of it off here. So it's actually really cool this, like it looks cool, it blasts things, it sets them on fire. But you'll notice that it's not killing them, whereas I swapped to the actual super shotgun and there you go, it's just bifurcated a guy. Now we need to get close to this guy because we have to do parries on him. If you stay at range he just shoots it to death, so we have to get right in there and just start parrying him. It's actually a bit of a nasty combat this one because it keeps throwing enemies in at the sides of you. Because you have to really get in this guy's face, which means that you're more likely to just die from the sides from a bullet off screen. You're much more likely to die from that than you are likely to die from him actually hurting you. We'll swap back to the auto shotty. But there you can see there, just to prove again, I shot at that laser grid, he was behind it, the bullets didn't go through and kill him. Whereas even at range, if you shoot these guys with the shotgun, I know that one was damaged a bit already, but it will kill, if not heavily damage them. I just want to point out as well, the music I think on this one, you can kind of hear it here, it's like more of a hum in the background than... And it's even just kind of stopped now. The music doesn't seem as intense as before. Maybe it's deliberate because it's not as pacey as Doom Eternal, I can kind of maybe understand the thinking there. But I know that behind the scenes, like a lot's been happening with them and Mick Gordon, to the point where he's no longer willing to work with them on these titles. And so we've lost the guy who basically composed and created all the music for the previous 2 titles, and you notice it. That's the thing I will say, you notice. There should be, where is it? It's that snake enemy again, isn't it? Has it not been able to path to us or something? There it is, it's trying to keep its distance. There we go, bifurcated, lovely. And then the weird crocodile commando thingy, right. But yeah, as you notice, it's a quick parry and attack. Get a shot in. But also every hit that you take absolutely shreds you in terms of health and armour. We're actually struggling quite a bit now, and let's try the chain shot. We've run out of shotgun rounds. I love how they're just putting all these basic enemies in behind me to get in my way as I'm moving through the arena here. And you'll notice that as well if you're playing Doom Dark Ages, you're often walking backwards. Well, I don't know how it expects me to get up there to glory kill him, but okay. Well, not glory kill, I'm just going to bonk him with the shield, aren't I? But that's more how the combat goes late game, and I would definitely say that it's a very big departure from Eternal and Doom 2016, especially Eternal. Eternal, you're bouncing off the walls. I'll just put it out there. This is my jump button. That's it. I don't have a double jump. There is no dodge button. There is only this basic jump, and then it's all just parries. You can throw the shield. You know, it's Captain America-esque thing. And that's kind of it. It's a bit, yeah. I would say the combat is very different from previous titles. If you're expecting it to be like Doom Eternal, it is not. It is the biggest departure from that you could imagine. And it's not just that, it's the glory kills, as I will point out. You just kind of bonk enemies with your shield. You kick them with your foot. It's not that big of a thing anymore. You can get them on certain enemies if you attack from above. I think some of them have, I dare say they've even accidentally left them in. Like, it feels like an accident that there's glory kills left in. It really does. Like, that's where we're at. You know, the glory kills are meant to be kind of gone, and some of them aren't, and so it feels a bit, well, yeah, that's kind of it. Well, let's see if I can maybe get a glory kill here. Maybe if we use this gun, perhaps. And we'll do one more late game combat for you here, just so you can kind of see what I mean with it all. Oh, and we've died. This has actually got one of the most hated enemies, personally, that I've found in the game. Like, it's this weird guy that can kind of like teleport around. Oh, it's suggesting we go up here and do whatever it is with this. Actually, where has it put me here? Right, here we are. Let's get some ammo for this. Good. This guy. So he creates a clone, and yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those clones that can still damage you. Just love it when they put those in games. And until the clone is dead, he gets a shield. And then even when he's not got a shield, he still kind of teleports around, which is annoying. Again, the parry system there, prominent, and it feels more like, it feels less like I'm playing Doom and more like I'm playing Wii Sports. You know, it's like I'm playing tennis, batting these things back at them. You know, bat the green ball back at the enemy. It's like, yep, yeah, I'm playing tennis. You know. Oh, I've got one of these here. I think these ones can get a glory kill. Let's see if we can actually trigger it. No. I tried to jump. I think if you get them from above, it does do it, but you've only got that basic hop. This guy's annoying as well. He'll only attack you when you get really close. Any other time he just keeps spamming that move, which you can imagine when you're fighting other enemies. And he's got a shield, by the way. Like, he's got this shield on. But yeah, so that guy will literally, he'll stand there and just keep smashing you with those long-ranged attacks until you get right up close, at which point he then gets rid of his shield and starts meleeing you, which makes no bloody sense. Like, why wouldn't you just keep the shield up all the time? But gameplay, I guess. We'll look at some of the other new things as well, just while I'm talking about my gripes with the combat system now that we've had a really good look at it. We can look at some mechs. And we'll skip the cutscenes.
Combat mode engaged.
Because again, I don't know how many of you will be bothered about the story, but just in case, we'll skip the story, just so there's no spoilers. And yeah, Palm Strike finisher, it's kind of weird. There's not actual proper glory kills for these. And you just do this dodge thing. Like in the mech you have an actual... Yeah, in the giant mech you have a dodge button. You'd think that if anything it'd be in the giant mech that you have the block button, not the dodge button. You know, giant mechs notorious for their agility, obviously. I guess. So no, it would make more sense for this to be blocking things rather than on foot, but I guess that's just me who thinks that. Oh. Put his shield there. Let's see if we can get the big finisher on him. And boom! There we go. Big finish. Right. Again, hats off to the people who designed the environments and the levels and things. That just the artists in general, fantastic job here. Ridiculously good. We'll go to one of these towers, we'll do another little fight. Gotcha. Oh. Boom. Gotcha. That's the thing as well, like the big last combo doesn't actually remove your entire combo meter, it just removes the last section, so you can just keep doing it over and over again. I did find when I first came up to this thing, my first instinct was I was doing this to it for a good minute, thinking like, why is it not... Like, I'm supposed to break this, and then I took another step forward and it's like, oh, I have to press the use button to destroy it. Don't know why. Don't know why it won't just let you shoot it. I guess it's so that it doesn't get destroyed in the combat or something, but they could just make it, I guess, invulnerable until the end of that, but whatever. I do like how stompy you are as well in the mech. Like, if I go to some buildings, say like smash through this, like, you do feel very stompy. And there are enemies on the ground as well, and you just stomp on them and just go poof. There's even some of like the big tanks and some of the enemies that you might find difficult when you're fighting regular, and you can just stomp them over while you're in the mech. So at least a bit of attention to detail to do that, but I would prefer the mech combat to be different. It's like it's good, but it's... That's all it is. That's basically it. It's like, it's alright. It's there. Needless to say, if you're buying the game for the sakes of the combat, like the mech combat, like, you get to go in them, but it's not very good. The other thing as well, that if you've seen the trailers, there are dragons, and the dragons are kind of badass. And I'll just let this scene kind of speak for itself. of course the Doom Guys one is just massive. And it has what looks like a sort of like a motorcycle chair, like seat on the back of it, with miniguns. And its wings are powered by lightning and lasers.
Thrusters online.
And of course it has jet engines. Why wouldn't it have jet engines in medieval times? It makes about as much sense as a box of frogs. It's absolutely nuts, this. But still, we'll look at some of the dragon fighting, and then we'll talk more about the game, the theming, and again the features that are new or that are missing. And funny thing as well with the dragon here, it kind of doesn't expect you to, like, it expects you to kind of, well, in fact we're not quite there yet, but anyway, here's some fighting. It's not bad. You dodge and then you shoot. You dodge them and you shoot. So it's not a parry system, it's a dodge system on the dragons. Then you do a takedown move. Rawr. Very awesome looking. But you'll notice, like, even though I can shoot the miniguns like this, you would think, oh, so I'm going to go over here maybe. Maybe I'll like breathe fire on them to bring their shields down, or same with, you know, use the miniguns to bring the shields down, then like breathe fire on them to destroy them or something. No. And no, the reason this isn't damaging them isn't because of range. It's because I have to do this. Yeah. So you're thinking, what the hell is that? When you get close to an enemy, you'll see this ring pop on around them. So I go away from him. Nothing there. I get closer, little ring appears, and that means we can lock on. That brings you to the front of them, and then you have to play Dance Dance Revolution, dodging in the correct direction. And when you do it, it goes slow-mo and gives you empowered shots, like you'll notice right now. I'm firing blue bullets, yeah? And then it goes back to normal. You can't actually damage them with your regular shots, and this is another thing. It's like, well, why have I got minigun rounds if I can't actually damage things with the miniguns? They also fire nowhere near fast enough for miniguns. Like, these are slow firing. So they're slow firing and ineffective. The only way that they can actually do damage is when you dodge something. The exception is these things. These are like flying piggy banks. They're not actually like proper enemies. You shoot them, you get some gold to spend on upgrading your weapons. They're the only enemy that you will fight in any kind of dogfighting style. Well, I guess dragon fighting style, not dog fighting. But they're the only ones that you'll do that with. And while you're doing it, you can only damage them if you're boosting, like this. Which obviously completely knackers your turn speed. So it gives you like a weird turn circle, and that's like the tutorial one. All the ones we come across later on are going to be weaving in and out of basically obstacle courses and absolute nightmares to try and track down and hit, because your turn circle's kind of screwed. This is quite funny as well. If you actually go to land here, no, you have to press the land button, and it doesn't expect you to do it this close. It's like expecting you to do it from the max range. So when you don't, it kind of pulls you back out and makes you go back in. It's a bit funny. Don't know why, I just find it weird that it does that. I can only imagine that that's there as like a tutorial for this is how to land your dragon. Anyway, we'll skip the cutscenes because again I don't want to spoil things. But again, it looks absolutely gorgeous, does the game. It's absolutely gorgeous looking. But again, the same problem persists with the dragon as it does with the mechs. Which is, oh hey, you're not really properly like fighting here as you would expect. It's more like I'm playing like Dance Dance Revolution, dodging all the stuff. Anyway, eventually it gets blown up, the battleship goes down, and you can land on here. And as I said, there's those things going round, you can smash them up like little piggy banks, but as you can see it's going to start weaving in round all the buildings, and you're having to chase after it whilst boosting. And so when it does a tight turn like that, it's difficult to follow. And because you can only kind of go at them when you're on a straight, because you have to be boosting to do it, as you can see, there can be a pain in the ass to go after. That's more or less it with the dragon combat. And I will just put this out there, so I found that the combat in general, so the mechs, they're stompy, they're cool looking, but the combat is crap. There's no glory kills, it's kind of meh. And as you can see there, my shot hit one of his laser grid things. Luckily the chain shot here creates an explosion on impact, which it looks like does actually go through. We'll pick out another gun. Just to get him. There we go. But yeah, so a lot of the combat really is, with the dragons, it's not dogfighting, it's just, hey, run in and dodge things and then return fire, right? As I mentioned, because of how the parry system works, it almost works in this way where you have to kind of, I need to find someone to just beat up so that I can get a bit of ammo from a super shotgun. It looks like I'm not going to get that, but I guess I can just kind of, ow, and just kind of bash him to get more ammo. Give me the shotgun, there we go. But because of how the parry system works, it's like parry, shoot, the shotgun becomes extremely good, the chain shot's a good alternative as well. Ammo is not often a concern because you just have to hit things with your melee attack. The chainsaw has basically been replaced with a melee attack that's on a cooldown, and it's very easy to just bonk enemies on the head and you'll just get more ammo. Like you can see the ammo pickups kind of pouring out of him there. Yeah, it's very easy to do, it's not much of a problem. Even things like that, like you'll notice as well, whenever we do have a puzzle, it's kind of clearly marked what you need to solve the puzzle. Like everything that you need to shield bash has that marker on it. Everything that you climb has the golden scratches and stuff on it. Keys always have like a lock icon thing, and I've just thought actually, this guy you can do a glory kill on him. See if we can actually get him to, there we go. Jump. Ah, we've run out of time on it. It doesn't even let you do them for very long either, the glory kills. Give me that glory kill. Go on, do it. I might end up dying here actually if I don't. Oh, this is a special enemy, yeah. When you're fighting those the first time, they'll increase things like your health and armor and ammo carry capacities.
Target destroyed. Destroying all the ships will lower the barrier
So,
and open a path inside.
kind of a glory kill, I guess. We've seen one at least. Right. But that's pretty much everything there is to show. And the game, it's... like I said, I think that in general, I would go as far as to say that... So, I think the dragons and mechs are a bit of a disappointment. They look cool, they feel kinda cool until you then realise that they're not very mechanically complex. There's no, like... The dragon at least has some glory kills, but I think it only has like 1 or 2. What's it as well? And again, the main issue I would say still with the game is that parry system. It's, you might like it, you might not. It's a very different way of doing combat from the previous games. It's not really an upgrade, it's more of a side grade or even like a backward step, you might say. It's not fantastic. I would say that in addition to that, it's like, okay, so the combat, it's not the best because of it, and because of the whole constantly having to parry in the later levels. Like I say, certain weapons are favoured, other ones fall out of favour, and because a lot of enemies, there's a lot of different types of enemies that just don't let you even shoot them unless you're getting close. It means using longer range weapons like the rocket launcher and things are a bit more difficult. Using full auto weapons where you have to build up a charge with them, very difficult to get them to the point where the charge is filled. It's going on to like the actual, because the way I would put it is, I think with Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, I would genuinely say that they were probably at the very least like 9 out of 10 games. I think we can all agree that at the very least they're a 9 out of 10. Both of them, right? Depending on whether you preferred the combat in 2016 where it was a bit slower paced, there weren't as many enemies, or whether you preferred it to be as hectic as it was on Doom Eternal, you might put one or the other as like a 10 out of 10. This is like the perfect example as to how this genre should be done. And like, let's not beat around the bush here. Doom 2016 did kind of revitalise a genre. Like, old school shooters like this had not really been getting made until then. You know, it kind of revived them. And they've even got their own little niche genre name now. Everyone's calling them boomer shooters. So, okay, cool. And yeah, that's pretty much exactly what they are. And they're really good. And they've kind of defined what it is to be a boomer shooter. Dark Ages does not. Dark Ages is more like an 8 out of 10. It's definitely above the competition. A lot of the competition could only dream of being... I mean, just look at what's in front of us here. It looks fantastic. And we're just going through, smashing things. We're on the back of a giant cybernetic dragon that breathes fire down enemies' gullets. It's fantastic, but when you realise that that's not all that mechanically complex, like, it kind of takes some of the satisfaction out of it when you realise that it's all been kind of set up by the developers to just make you look cool, but, you know, you just dodge enemy shots, return fire, then the little kill animation thing comes up for you to play, and your dragon goes and breathes fire down them, and then when you're playing the actual game, you just kind of play tennis with them for a while, parrying their shots back, and then run up, and then you don't even do glory kills anymore. Now, I've been trying to do one throughout this bit of a showcase here. We managed one, and that was a scripted one because it were a mini-boss just then. So, yeah, there's very few of them left in the game. Doom Eternal, I were doing like a couple of minutes, right? You wouldn't be able to play the game without doing a couple of glory kills unless you were deliberately trying not to. The soundtrack as well, just, it's more like a metal hum in the background. It's nowhere near as aggressive as I think Eternal and 2016 were. I don't think there'll be any like super iconic tracks from Doom Dark Ages that get, you know, millions upon millions of views on the YouTube channel that they've got and everything. I don't think that's going to happen with this one. I think Mick Gordon's departure has been felt. It's still a good soundtrack, probably still even worth buying, but it's not absolutely phenomenal. So there's that to be said about it. I would also point out as well, and we can have a look at this from the main menu here, we'll just quickly go back. Just another thing to kind of show off here. The campaign is actually surprisingly long. As I said, this took me about, on ultra-violent difficulty, this took, I think, about 30 hours, 31 hours to beat. I've not been fully completionist about it, but I've been getting close on most levels. That's the point as well, and they're so forgettable I nearly even forgot to mention them. Each level, so there's not just like collectibles, right? It's not just a case like, oh yeah, there's some collectibles. There's also like side missions and things to do. And the levels are quite large, like really large levels. And as such, each one of these is about an hour long to an hour and a half, some of them. Some are shorter, but most of these levels are very long. The collectibles, the puzzles aren't that hard. They'll usually try to hide a lot of things. I will say a personal pet peeve of mine is I really hate any and all backtracking in games. I really do. I didn't really like collectible hunting in the previous two games. It annoys me that your weapon upgrades are tied to finding collectibles. I really dislike that your weapon upgrades are tied to collectibles. Personally, I would honestly try to remove as many of the collectibles as possible. It's not really my thing. I will say as well, the menu music is probably the track that goes the hardest that I've heard in the game. This is pretty good. But yeah, I'm not really the collectathon type of guy. I personally kind of get annoyed by them, but the fact that all of these collectibles are currencies that you need to upgrade your weapons, it's a bit frustrating because it just extends the length of the game. And some of these extra missions, without getting too far into it, just as an example, normally when you get to the end of a game, you have a big fight. You know, you go and you do your big boss fight, and then there might be multiple boss fights in a row, and there is on this. The final battle mission is pretty much exactly that. It's exactly that. It's the final battle. You have a bunch of boss fights in a row, and then for some reason it throws you into another hour-long mission in which you then have basically the same boss fight at the end, right? At which point it finally ends. You do beat the bad guy at the end, of course, and in doing so, it actually censors the kill on him. Like, Doom Guy's there, obviously about to rip his head off, and it shows it from an angle where you only see the Doom Guy, like, slamming his shield down and blood splurt up and splatter him. It doesn't show it, actually. And then it cuts to him with the severed head, and it's like, oh. So we're not going to show that then. Too violent, I guess, even though there's literally glory kills in the game, the few of them that still exist. But there is one where you literally rip open a mancubus vertically, like saw through them with the shield. So, you know, yeah, there's something equally as violent in there. I don't know why it censored that, but it does. And I think that is just a bit of a problem. Like, there's just bloat in the game. Some of the missions feel unnecessary. The game is about the length of like the main campaigns of Doom 2016 and Eternal kind of welded together. And that might sound great to you, like, oh well, it's like two games welded together. It is a bit more expensive to buy this unless you get it on Game Pass, in which case it's, well, it's the cost of your £10 a month subscription, which is a lot cheaper, or more expensive, I guess, if you're on Xbox. I think it's more like £15 or £20, whatever, depending which tier. But, and I think that is definitely what's kind of saving the game. The fact that, yes, you can get this on Game Pass. Yes, it's a lot cheaper when you consider that than previous titles. As I've said, the theming and everything is still fantastic. The like just the environment design things. I will say I do not care for the story. It's very simplistic. It's not very good. The other thing as well, I'm still mixed about this whole Doomiverse thing, where it used to be just like, okay, Doom guy is they've dug him up out of hell out of the portal to hell and brought him onto the Mars base. He's woke up as the demons have arrived, and now he's killing everything. Then Doom Eternal, where, oh, Earth's gone to hell, literally. Here comes the Doom guy. Then it gets kind of weird about a third of the way in. It starts getting into this whole, like, ooh, there's these sentinels and then makers, and you're getting into the deep lore of the Doomiverse, and I don't think many people care. And it just makes me wonder why they bother with all of it. Because I think the best story was Doom 2016. My favourite part of the story is when the guy at the start is trying to set up the story and tell Doom guy that it's all necessary and is about to go on a big exposition thing, and Doom guy just punches the intercom in the lift and pumps his shotgun, and just as the titles roll, and then he goes out and kills a load of demons. I do not care for the story. I find it a bit weird that it's all like medieval, yet they have plasma rifles. It's definitely done just because rule of cool, but it makes absolutely no sodding sense. And it can probably be done in a better way. Like, I look at something like Warhammer 40k, at least there's like, granted that's had years to get this right, as Warhammer 40k, like decades to get to the point where it's got where it is today, where it all sort of feels at home and in the universe and reasonable, even though you start digging into it. It's probably not much more absurd than it's probably not much less absurd than Doom guy being running around with a medieval mace and shield, yet also having again a plasma rifle. This mishmash of technology and medieval stuff. And I do think that the Sentinel faction was literally put in the game and then highlighted in this game, just so they could put Doom guy on a dragon and give him like a shield and melee weapons and stuff, and make him look like some kind of angry Viking space warrior. That said, as much as the game is quite long and they've put more focus on story and things, it's also worth noting that I do think the game length also is partly a bit of bloat, and I also think that it's also worth noting that there's no map snap mode, whatever it's called, and there's no multiplayer where you can slay the Doomslayer as the demons. There's no extra modes, so all that's kind of gone. I have pointed out that there are some cool new guns, and the thieving's great and everything. The like skull grinding gun looks fantastic and things, but I think overall, because I think I've just about gone through everything now at this point, and overall I feel like it's a bit of a departure from the previous games, and it doesn't quite work. And I think that's the thing. It's the definite like elephant in the room with this, or the giant cacodemon in the room is basically, which by the way, those enemies are gone. It's like, yeah, there are classic enemies missing. There's some new enemies, and you do go to a new biome and it reveals a new faction briefly, and it doesn't really go into it much, and you see a few new enemies but not all that many. You think there'd be a new faction worth of enemies, there aren't. Again, glory systems basically all gone. There's new cool weapons, but there's new cool weapons, but some of the old weapons are missing. The BFG is in the game. It's now a giant crossbow. It's awesome. And like I said, it's but what's there? It's either a lot of features have either been watered down or removed, or replaced with something that's not as good. Like the soundtrack, the combat, I think, have been replaced with inferior combat and an inferior soundtrack. You know, the glory kills are basically just gone, and overall, it feels like a slight decline in the franchise. It really does. And I think that it's a bit of a shame to see, and it does get me a tad worried. And the reason why I'm a bit worried, well, I'll show you now. Let's just cut straight to the Steam store. And here we are. Apologies that the music suddenly cut out, but we're on the Steam store, and yeah. Where is Doom Eternal? It's only been a week or so since release. I think I'm filming it on the 26th, and it came out on the 15th, so it's a bit over a week. And it's just not there. Pre-orders for the new Elden Ring game, obviously right up on the top there. Helldivers with just some new DLC is rocketing up the charts there. Expedition 33 still near the top. Pre-orders for Stellar Blade are right behind it. And again, this is global top sellers, and it's based on revenue. In fact, I think it's based on yeah, I guess relevance is it's sorted by revenue. So Doom is here. About a week and a half so it's been out. It's down here. Just based on revenue. Warhammer 3 that's on sale is above it. Right? Indie games like Schedule 1 and Repo that have been there for months, because that's the other thing. It's the excuses here. I know what the excuses are going to be, but it's been out for a week and odd. That means that most of its sales will have done now, right? And it's on Game Pass. It's on Game Pass. Everyone's just going to buy it on Game Pass, right? Yeah. If you know, I mean, that would be an argument if Claire Obscure, that's been there for the better part of a month now. I mean, it's, well, just over a month actually. About 24th of the previous month. That's also on Game Pass. That's still up here. What's that like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh no, I've gone past it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is 8th. A month later, it's 8th. Yeah. It's that big of a gap. Doom is down here, so what will that be? So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. Doom is 22nd, right? So it would, like I say, it would be wrong to compare apples and oranges, but let's compare apples and apples then. Yeah, Expedition 33, another game on Game Pass that sells for less. This is what's sorted by revenue, so to kind of equal one copy of Doom sold, Expedition 33 has to sell nearly 2 copies of its own game, right? And yet, there it is, higher than Doom, also on Game Pass. I think with Doom Dark Ages, it's not a bad game. Like I say, I would give it an 8 out of 10. It's just the problem is that the previous games exist and are better. And it kind of highlights what you could argue might be the start of a series decline. Because if they don't understand the value of the things that made it great, because this isn't like, okay, this Doom is a bit shorter in length than the other titles or something. It's not a case of like, oh, they removed that multiplayer mode that people didn't really seem all that fussed about. No. This is, for some reason, the glory kills are gone. We don't know why. They've just been removed. The soundtrack, because they've had some beef with the guy who did the music, it's just feels diluted. And not only that, but then, and again, it's like the game feels bloated. All the collectibles that are all tied to weapon upgrades feel like it's there to, again, just pad out the runtime. I felt that in the previous games as well. And other problems, and things like I said, the combat's all about parrying. Another problem I would as well point out with the combat I forgot to mention, when enemies are constantly like running at you and you're having to parry and walk backwards while shooting, you're kind of doing this like sort of fighting retreat maneuver, which does not sound like Doom Guy at all. You're constantly bumping into things as you walk backwards, and it's how you get stuck against walls, and it's a bit meh. Doom Eternal, I remember the whole point was you have to stay mobile, and enemies are shooting projectiles at you constantly, and the best way to avoid them is to just keep moving. Doesn't really matter where, as long as you're moving, because it throws their aim. The enemies didn't really fire that far ahead of you, so as long as you keep moving forwards, you'd keep avoiding them. And most enemies, if you just kept shooting right into them as you walked up to them, you would probably kill them by the time you get there, and you can do a glory kill on them. Except from like the odd boss here and there. But it meant that on Doom Eternal you were most of the time running forwards, especially because they put loads of like jump pads and portals in the arenas. Whereas with Doom Dark Ages, it's just a big open area. There's no jump pads and verticality to the arenas. Doom Eternal, you are bouncing off the walls, going through portals, and you're constantly moving forwards through enemies. It's a full-on attack. And Dark Ages is just a fighting retreat maneuver. And again, I think that's really the problem with it. I would genuinely say the main issue is the combat. I think that if you were to ask me, Doom 2016 got things more or less right. I would say that Doom 2016 just needed to tighten up the combat, maybe add more enemies and make it a bit more pacey, because it didn't match the music. You had this like crazy metal music in the background, and you felt like you were just taking a stroll through hell. Whereas Doom Eternal, you definitely felt like you really were smashing through enemies constantly. Absolutely, the pacing matched the music. It was maybe a bit much for some people, so the argument would be, okay, well, let's not reinvent the wheel. Maybe we just need to tone it down a little bit, so it's somewhere between the two, where it's, you know, nice and tight, and you're bouncing around the room and doing all these jump pad things with portals and blasting through enemies, but you're not having to constantly weapon swap and giving yourself a sprained wrist while you flick your mouse around or whatever. It kind of needed to be just toned down so that the combat was somewhere in between the two. Hell, it could probably be done through the use of the difficulty sliders or something that in the game and things. You could just have some difficulty sliders or something. The new one as well, Doom Dark Ages, it does have difficulty sliders as well. I did forget to mention that it does have them, but this is all based on the ultra violence mode, which is like hard mode. And again, without a dodge button and things, I don't really see what increasing the game speed and things will do. But point being is, it felt like Doom 2016 just needed tweaks to the combat. Doom Eternal felt like maybe it just needed the combat toning down a little bit. I didn't care for all the story. I think Doom Eternal forgot that the story is meant to be kind of non-serious, and it's just Doom Guy is just angry guy and is just going to go and smash everything. Whereas it will introduce in different factions and different biomes and areas and things, and I don't think people cared for it much. I would say a new Doom game, I would be saying, okay, let's maybe not go as hard on the lore and story that no one gives a toss about. Problem is now is they've kind of committed to that, and they're really churning that stuff out, and obviously that's basically a waste of time and resources. It's like that requires you to have writers, and there's going to be cutscenes and things. And it's like, no, I just preferred it on Doom 2016 when he smashed the intercom. Or when he goes on Doom Eternal and just fires a hole through Mars and then it uncovers like a portal to hell which he uses to invade hell. You know, it's pretty good. Whereas this, it's like all story and you find all this stuff, and it still has those badass moments, but again, it's like I don't care for all this lore around it, and I think it is a waste. But it feels like instead of taking those pointers, they've kind of, just as I said, they've gone, no, let's completely change up the combat. We'll make it something like the combat from God of War, but it's a shield instead of an axe. They looked at Marvel and thought, well, if God of War did Thor from Marvel, we'll do Captain America. You know, let's do that. And it's cool, but I don't think I wouldn't mind the shield source staying in, but I don't want the parry system in. You know, if maybe there's the occasional thing to knock back, but again, the biggest problem with the power system is not just that you're constantly doing it, it's that there's those laser grids that come out that block shots. It completely changes the combat. It's not very good because of it. And I think that's pretty much it. I think honestly the Steam sales kind of show the problem here, and you kind of look on it, like I say, it's very positive reviews. I think it's somewhere in the 80s there, 86%. It's still doing very well. But, and it's like I say, it's just the glory kills going, the parry system being introduced in the combat, it being less pacey, the soundtrack not being as intense. You spend half your time running around the map, going through all these, trying to get all these collectibles as well, because the maps are generally bigger. There's a lot more collectibles on them, and there's a lot more backtracking and running about, again, padding out the game time and just annoying you. And in addition to that as well, one last thing about the combat, because the maps are huge, they are huge, and you'll have seen when I was fighting, there's loads of enemies, and this is very much you're fighting and there's just lots of enemies just on screen all over the place. You're constantly getting hit from the sides and the back, which I think is why the parry is so generous, because if it wasn't, you'd be constantly just taking random hits from the sides and to your rear. And it's just kind of frustrating, I think. It's not the type of combat that I particularly enjoy. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is I kind of had to force myself to beat Doom Dark Ages. Doom Eternal, it just went. It just like, I blinked and I was already at the end of the game. Like, oh my god, I've just torn through that. I've ripped and torn through that. But not with Doom Dark Ages. And it just, like I said, with lost all this stuff, it feels like it's lost a piece of itself. It's lost a piece of its soul, and we'll see if it manages to get it back on the next one, but it might be the start of a franchise decline, and I think that's why everyone's a bit worried about it. They've probably got one or two more games left in them before this just probably gets cancelled as a franchise, which will be a bit worrisome. And one last thing as well, just one final thing as well, because there were quite a lot here. I've jotted it all down, and then I've just remembered something at the end here that I'd not written down in my little notes. You don't feel like the Doom guy as much anymore. I mentioned it feels like it's lost a piece of its soul and that. I remember in Doom Eternal, you actually get to see humans react to the Doom guy for the first time. And you're going through this base, trying to get to this big gun to shoot a hole in Mars. And it's just as you get the plasma rifle. You literally walk through this command center and everyone's just freaking out. And they're like, oh my god, it's him. And it's part absolute fear and also complete awe of you. You're like, head, shoulders, and biceps above everyone else in the room. So it kind of makes me think like, okay, so Doom Guy is actually like 7 feet tall or something. And he just walks over to this guy who's got a key card and grabs it and just drags him over to the scanner, I think, and scans it in. Then he walks out and the soldier's like, oh, you can't be here. And you just sort of lurch over him, just grab the gun out of his hand, and that's how you get the plasma gun. And no such moment like this in Doom Dark Ages. You walk past the Sentinels, they don't give a toss. They're not like, oh my god, it's him, the hero. They don't even say anything to you. When I was playing Space Marine 2 the other year, you walked past Imperial Guardsmen, like you'd just go in, you'd kill a bunch of Tyranids, and then the Imperial Guardsmen who were left at the end would be like kneeling down before you go in. My lord, you have saved us, you're amazing, and you feel like a Space Marine. When that happened in Doom Eternal, you feel like the Doom guy. You're like, oh yes, I am this badass. And the game just doesn't react to you in this way in this one. And it's just another thing. And again, I think the sales here speak for themselves. It would be unfair to compare it to a game that's, newly released and selling loads of stuff and that when Doom is available on Game Pass and things. But we can make the comparison to Expedition 33 here. If that's on Game Pass and selling so well, why is Doom not selling way better? And I think that really says a lot. That said, thank you very much for listening to me at the end here. I hope that's given you a bit of an idea of like all the different aspects of the gameplay, the features, and the features that are missing, quite frankly, from the new Doom game. I've had a good time with it in the 30 odd hours it took to complete, but again, I would definitely say that it could be better. I hope it does get better in the next game. And yeah, just as a franchise fan, I'm really hoping it's not the beginning of a decline. I think they're definitely going to they need to step it up a notch in the next one. And again, it's the only thing I would say that's bad is the combat. Just that parry system needs to go. You spend most of the time in combat parrying and not shooting, and it does cause issues. I think that's the biggest thing. The other things are just, it's like, okay, the soundtrack could be better, I guess. It'd be nice. If you've burnt your bridges with Mick Gordon, they'll have to shop around for someone who's as sort of famous for doing great game soundtracks. They'll have to do that. And other things like just start animating those glory kills back in and things like that. I don't know if they can be added with a patch later down the line, but though of course it's a bit late now once everyone's played it. And maybe tighten it up rather having as much bloat and things. But as I say, it's not a bad game. It's great. It looks great. Even the combat, while it's not as good as previously, it's still good. The weapons look great. They feel great. They're brilliant to use. It's just not, as I say, it's not that it's bad. It's that the previous entries were better. I think that's the problem. Thank you very much for watching. I'll have more games and, well, more gameplay and game reviews on the channel of other games. They'll probably be, at the time of this coming out, it probably won't be long before I'll be putting some Elden Ring Night Rain on the channel. Going into June, there should be the Altars. And I'm also considering, and I think I probably will do a review of Expedition 33. And probably release that most likely shortly after this if you're interested in watching a review of that as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in future videos on the channel. I'll see you then.